Hello, everyone. Welcome to Revelation Now podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Wilson. And we are excited about what we're starting here. We will not just be talking about the book of Revelation in the Bible, of the New Testament, the last book. We will. But we're also going to be looking at different factors that's going on in our world even now as to what's going on exactly. What is it? This element of apocalypse, that's Revelation. Apocalypto comes from the Greek, an unveiling. But we usually think of it, apocalypse, as the classic, right? Things coming to an end. What's really involved with it? Because there's things happening, we believe right now, even in our earth. And we're going to be talking about, it's a big subject. It really is. And we've got other voices going to be with me on this, co-host. There's one fella I know. His name is Tyler. He's right there.
Hello there.
And then other guy, Bro, Jason.
Proceed.
And
hello, everyone.
We're going to be just taking this on. This is the podcast, Revelation Now. That's the title. That's the name. I do pastor, Life Point Church, and we're in a series we started also of the same title. And we'll be talking some about that in connection with it, reviewing things we've talked about. But I think it's a subject that when we just take the time, when we pause from our daily life, from the ins and outs and the practical and the looking down, I called it Sunday. We're not looking up. We're very looking down, looking in the phones, looking down the street on our way to somewhere, looking at the TV. But when we pause, there's this element of what's going on. How did we get here? That's a big question. How did we get here on Earth? Where are we headed? Is it going to end? Is it going to keep going? And that's a question that's been asked for ages on end, right? Ancient questions. They've been trying to figure that out. But I think they've also been moved, like we all are with these questions. I know we don't wake up every day and say, how did we get here? In the big sense. We get on with our daily life. But it's there. Don't you think it's there when you just pause? These big questions still show up. We can try to ignore them. I mean, with the pandemic, the lockdown, I was saying how I've never experienced anything like that in my life. Had a revelation feel to it, right?
Yep.
Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Things are shutting down. People are dying. And
unknown, uncertainty.
Yeah, I think there's a fragility to the whole. That's the underlying feeling.
it did feel fragile, didn't it?
This could fall apart.
It felt House of Cards
at any
all
second.
of a sudden.
Yeah.
With it.
And probably it's always been that way. Everybody's always felt that.
Because it is, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is an edge there.
And what is
holding
this all together?
Yeah, what is holding it all together?
I mean, we believe that that's Christ.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about.
1.
Yeah, even if there's not some sort of divine apocalypse, even without that fact, even according to the scriptures, Earth is running down. It's in the process of shutting down. It's dying. We read that in Romans 8. I was thinking about that just this week. That's a big idea. That there was a degree of perfection there with Adam and Eve and the animals. And there was even some sort of canopy over the earth that protected them, the biosphere, the dome.
Like in Men in Black?
Yeah, like they literally could have lived forever. Yeah. They were not mortal or immortal. They were like right in between. And they didn't have the rain yet. It said things were watered. It came up from the ground. But then, of course, the transgression, the trees said, no, I'm going to go this way. I'm not going to do what you say. It did something, because even God says to him there, what you've done has messed things up. on a big, larger scale than you think. The earth is now cursed, remember? Because of the earth is now cursed. So the wages of sin is death. That process began with, not just with Adam and Eve and the animals and the switch of the nature of earth. Everybody was a vegetarian, it seemed like. There was kind of a vegetarian feel to everything. Things got switched around. But then things started to shut down on Adam and Eve. It took them a while. Think of the energy that they had in their bodies and that perfection. God said, you eat that, you'll die. The Hebrew is, in dying, you will die. It's like I said, the refrigerator, you unplug it, it's dead, but then the dying part, the cool element, dissipates. It stays there for a while. Mm-hmm. So when they unplugged, that energy, that life they had, that eternal life, it stayed there for a while. And then there's 900 years. Some people laugh at that and say, oh, come on. But you can see how there's been, we've gone backwards. If they were in a perfect state, then we've not been evolving, right? Yeah. There's been like a devolving going on. You lived this long, now it's just been decreasing, going down. We're not living as long as we did.
There are so many things that drove me nuts about it, but Aronofsky's Noah movie, that's one part I really liked, is it just kind of like that newness of the earth and life. It just kind of had that almost magical element to it, like it sparkled, and you could, during the day, you could see the constellations and
shiny.
It was just shiny, and like it looked like you're talking about like that energy.
There was a spectacular thing too, because even the
a long time.
We'll talk about it on this show soon, too, about when the serpent showed up. There's so much more going on there. Yeah. It wasn't just a talking animal. You look at the Hebrew, this thing, and it talks about in Isaiah and Ezekiel. It's from seraphim. I mean, it's more. There was a spectacular thing going on there. You just see this little, corny snake talking wrapped around a tree. It's not. It's really not that in the Hebrew. This was like, this could have been an angelic type deal, part of the creatures that were created. And what a world! I mean, she didn't freak out when the creature came and was talking, and again, people kind of laugh and mock. Oh yeah, they lived all this time and they were in a perfect world, but we sense that though there was something right, but something got off track, and now are we headed towards something? It's been that way for, when you look at history, human history, everybody's been thinking that. One way or another, each nation, tribe. Are we headed for something? It feels like we're headed for something. We need to get things right before we get there.
Even the sense of just
the sacrifices over the years, all of that's going on.
Something's not right.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Something's not
see
right.
That in kids.
Yeah.
Innocence.
Something is
gone I mean, it's
wrong
like,
here.
I love
and it's so obvious. You just look through a history book. It's like,
I love the
clearly has gone off the rails.
It's like a kid. Like when a kid, you have your wonder years, and then the bubble begins to pop. That's like humanity's gone through that, the wonder years, and then Adam and Eve especially had the wonder years. And it's like, oh no, something's off, something's wrong. And of course, the answer was Jesus. It took a while for the answer to show because of the process and the reality of all this going on. And by the way, we're still talking Revelation. Now we're just setting up for it. And so I've started with this, and we're talking about why would there even be this talk of Revelation, apocalypse, things happening.
The end of all things.
The end, the events, the tribulation, and all these events that are going to happen. And what I want to really look at too, because this is something it's about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. I found myself looking at, the Ancient Alien show that came out. At first I thought, this is silly, but I watched it anyway. Like, oh, come on. And then I watched it again. Then I watched it again. And I realized they started using all kinds of Bible references for what they were talking about. And I'd heard about it before. It really comes up because the big question with this podcast is this, in connection with Revelation, end times, what's going on in our world, where we headed. is it angels, aliens, UFOs, or demons? It's a huge topic right now. There's whole communities in America, around the world, asking those very questions. I mean, millions upon millions of people are talking angels. Is it that, or is it aliens? Is it technology? Is it some tech from way out there that's showing up that's messing with us? Is it the demonic? Is it just demonic? That's the paranormal element. And for me, it seems like it's increasing. The interest in the paranormal, the interest in the UFO. And it started, I know in America, I was going to talk about this Sunday, and I never did get to it. Maybe it was good that I didn't. Just time-wise, I just felt like I could have kept going. We were talking about in the skies or in the heavenlies. Or
in the clouds.
Yeah, in the clouds.
I love that. You said in our atmosphere.
It talks about Jesus is going to return in the clouds. And some think of that, it sounds like fantasy, but I realized the scriptures mean it in the very opposite. Yeah. Saying you need to take this seriously because it's going to be in your very sky, in your very world, sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell, your space, your time. This is not something that's happening over there. It's going to be something you experience and see. And it sets the stage for the whole thing. But even now, what is this deal within the skies? Because the UFO, that's what I'm telling you, the talk of alien, UFO, angels, demons. Of course, we have scriptures for the part, the wicked spirits in the heavenlies.
Sure. That
big connection. And I find it fascinating that the topics even come up. But the thing, and I'm not saying I agree with everything going on with the ancient alien deal. It makes me smile sometimes. And sometimes they're stretching it, it seems like, trying to find the next episode. After, it's been going years now, 10, 11 years. There's like 17 seasons of it. Mm-hmm. So you got to try to figure out what's the next thing I can do. But the fellow who's got it started was in the 60s, the late 60s. It was Eric von Daniken. And he was influenced by the scriptures, by the Bible. And he's the one who wrote the book Chariots of the Gods. And it was around before him, but he's really the one who...
Was he a Christian?
He says he believes in God, but he's never said Christian.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure. He says, now, that doesn't mean I don't believe in God, but he believed, he's the one who crossed over to said, this isn't angels. He was influenced by the scriptures. They're talking about extraterrestrials. Mm-hmm. He's the one who took it out of the angelology and put it into extraterrestrialology.
Yeah.
And it kind of made sense. What he was saying is, because there's so much gods in the sky, the angels in the sky, chariots of fire in the sky. There's a lot of that. Whirlwind, angel went up in the whirlwind, and all of these things, and God on the mountain, and the smoke, and the fire. Well, and he just put two and two together, said, that's alien, UFO.
Yeah, it's the spiritualizing technology. Like if I went back in time with my phone and showed up, I had this magic screen that showed it would seem like magic.
How would you explain it?
It would seem like I had a magical thing. It's technology.
Yeah, Ezekiel and these different ones, Isaiah. If you're seeing something flying in the sky, how would you explain it back then? A few thousand years ago, there's no airplanes or rockets. You wouldn't say that. It looked just like a fiery airplane. The only vehicles they had were the chariots.
Yeah.
That were going along. He just happened to say, how did
Firebird
a chariot get in the sky?
Or use jewels.
And it's on fire. Yeah. So they're putting him in... so it's Eric Van... I was going to say Chariots of the God. It was in 1968. It just took off. People just ate it up. That extraterrestrials showed up on Earth in our ancient history and started and gave knowledge to man and helped them build the pyramids and helped them build all these structures. And you kind of think, seems like it, because these megaton blocks that some of these structures, you just scratch your head. Like in the Mayan, not just there, in Asia and Egypt.
And wasn't that the premise of the last Indiana Jones movie, Crystal Skull?
Yeah, the aliens were connected, weren't they?
Yeah, the hive mind aliens
with it
gave them all that technology.
And you got to find a balance, because I like sci-fi, man. I really like it because I think God's already there, tech-wise. I mean, he's got all the gadgets. He looks at our stuff and kind of just smiles, like, oh, they got smartphones, you know. Oh, they got they can get to the moon. Wow, you know, he's way down the line.
I remember when I first came back to Christ in 2007, I had that thought, like, I wonder if, like, the apostles, the disciples would time travel now, I bet they'd just be blown away. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. They're in the presence of the Creator right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and they experienced some crazy stuff too. Tongues of fire, actual extraterrestrials, but I believe they're angels, showed up, taking them out of prison. You know, shaking it up. And the one where it says the angel stood and I don't know what he did, Jedi trick, because the gate opened of its own accord. He even says that.
These are not the apostles you're looking for.
Or he put out his hand and the gate opens. However he did it, it said it opens obviously didn't open of its own accord. There was some sort of power that came from this being with it. So we're going to talk. We're already starting to get on it. You can tell this is really a neat subject. But it does, what's our goal for what we're talking here? And we're talking to whosoever, but we really believe in this idea of just being ready, living a life where you're not taking things for granted, to have some answers, to have your head on straight, because we really, I think y'all would agree, there's some crazy times. I mean, there's some crazy things happening in this life, and we believe there's answers. That it is not always, you know, will we ever get there? You know, it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. And there are rabbit holes. I'm going to have to watch going down some of these with this subject, revelation, and then especially attaching it to, you know, answering the questions, what's going on? Is it angels, aliens? Sometimes I feel like, so you've got ancient aliens. You guys have seen it before too, right?
Yep. You
know Giorgio Tsoukalos. Tsoukalos is his name. Giorgio Tsoukalos, that guy with the hair. Giorgio.
Oh, yeah.
I had a T-shirt, actually. I think Reggie bought me one with him.
I love that guy.
And the hair. He's really cool, Giorgio. But he studied he was influenced by Daniken on Eric von Daniken and on this subject. And there's sometimes I wish when I've watched it, I was like, just, you know, you struggle because it's just right there. The step just to go, why not just believe that it is supernatural?
Biblical.
Yeah, that it is, that the Bible's right on. You know, that they took it out of that into just natural. They made it all like the angels aren't, especially Giorgio, he talks that it's not, they were just describing physical craft coming down. They were just describing physical entities.
Well, I think it's interesting though too, because they're, like we say, we don't know how it works, to be honest, with angels and demons. Yeah. I don't know. We're assuming there's not technology of some. It's real.
Yeah. What if it's a matter of terminology?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just a matter of terminology.
We can't explain that.
We're acting like that's magic. There is something.
But
there.
I understand what they're doing. I even understand. So the question is this. Here's what the question comes down to. It's either one and the same or two separate deals. or it's just really is just angels. It's not these extraterrestrials from another planet. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not that.
So
It's either angels and this other deal,
yeah,
or it's just angels and demons, wicked spirits in the heavenlies. It's just that they're seeing. There's something crosses over.
Revealing.
Yeah.
Unveiling.
That if we got on to Genesis 6, they get into that a lot. Of course, I believe in the sons of God that fell and came to earth. That's a whole other deal. We'll get to that one day.
It is, but it's part of it. I mean, that's what C.S. Lewis got into with his science fiction writing.
Yeah.
Was that there, in his writing at least, that there's lots of different beings in the universe.
Yeah.
But in his, especially
Yeah.
Palandria, they weren't allowed to come here because we had gone off.
It could be. And nobody knows. I do not know. I just think I think God started with one, that this is the Genesis project. It's what it seems like to me. And once this comes out right, it goes on from there. Because even heaven, in the book of Revelation, how heaven comes here, and then it begins to spread. Like, God's not running around the universe putting out fires. He's putting out this one right now. And then from there, because we know, I mean, his focus, if there's other life out there, his focus is here.
Project Earth.
Yeah.
This
Scripturally,
cosmos.
we know that. For God so loved this world. And his son came to this one. It's a big question. I've heard others ask, well, did Jesus die for those out there, if they're out there? And it's a big deal. I mean, if there's life out there like us, then they're stuck on their planet too. Unless they've gone way, 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 way beyond us. Because we can't, this whole deal of traveling around the universe, it's not as easy as it sounds. I've been looking at that and the different, like the nearest star, Alpha Centauri, at space shuttle speed, it would take you 180,000 years to even just get to a star that doesn't have any life, no planet, no nothing.
Yeah.
100. How could you even get there? You die after a few hundred years.
Well, you
you'd
have to
be
have like
dead. How are you going to get the energy?
like the movies, like
The
the
fuel,
Dune,
you'd run out.
fold space or
You'd
time
run
travel.
out of-
Or,
It has to be on a whole nother level.
yeah, right.
And then we're starting to get into the angel side, because they're the ones who are already past speed of light. They're in a whole nother deal.
One thing about all this stuff that intrigues me, Jason mentioned earlier about the technology, if you could go back and see what you have now. And then you even mentioned Eve in the garden, like that just seemed normal.
Yeah,
That
if it
thing
was,
showed up.
if it was more than just a snake.
But it's like post-enlightenment, this is all like entertainment and fantasy to us. But for millennia, this was just like second nature, believed stuff.
Yeah.
That this stuff existed.
Mm-hmm.
It was just normal everyday
Again,
thought
it's that
in
matter
life.
of terminology, right?
It's us, moderns that are like, poo-poo it or whatever. But it's pretty relatively new, that mindset.
Yeah, like
for a long time, this was part and parcel with your world you lived in.
Yeah.
With this other thing.
Tech-wise, like Genesis 3:24, God drove out the man and he placed cherubim. I don't think it was the first time Adam and Eve saw that too.
Yeah. Oh, with those people, those things.
Yeah, they were part of the whole deal. So he drove out the man and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden and a flaming sword. What's up with that? Again, it's that terminology. That could have been a high-level deal to block their entrance. And, we think we've got it made, we've got it made. What was it? Apple just came out with the VR goggles.
Vision, yeah.
And we're advanced, baby.
It's Minority Report, real life.
We are down the road. Yeah. But there's things out there that are already way down the road. And what we're looking to see is how all this meshes. I get excited about it because I can see, I think it's a searching. It's an anticipation that's going on with the increase in the sci-fi and even the anime world. What do you call the superhero deal?
Comic books?
The MCU and all the different genres.
Avengers.
Again, we call it entertainment, and it is entertaining to a degree, but I think it's also just it's a searching, it's an anticipation, it's a consciousness.
And where are we heading? It's so much dystopian, apocalyptic.
Would we? I mean, I don't think we're going to be overly shocked if something does literally show up.
Yeah. Well,
right, because we're already being primed big time in it.
Yeah.
For the skies, and that's what we read, right? In Revelation,
chapter 1.
We got to it. We're back around to the sky part, and we're going to look again this Sunday. We're coming at it. Where the introduction to the book of Revelation is really a revelation of Jesus on a whole other level. Not just the lamb this time, but the lion part, the Messiah part that Israel actually was expecting, the glory of the kingdom, the one who was going to take charge. What's the Johnny Cash song?
Man comes around.
When the man comes around. Wish we could have that as our intro. Can we pay to?
He will sue you
from the Cash family
from the other side.
Yeah, we used that one time and we couldn't. They shut us down on YouTube. It wasn't just that; it was.
Lots of movie imagery too.
Right. They, I think it was up for 1 minute.
Yeah, it was
they grabbed it pretty fast, didn't they?
It was an epic example of copyright infringement. 12 movies in a Johnny Cash song.
It really was. We took them all.
Whoops, you can't do that.
It's like, oh, come on. We could play it in our service. That was really when did YouTube get started? Do you know what the time frame was on that? With it? Here we go. Revelation 1 and 7. And this is why we're talking this language, and this is for the podcast. It's just a huge subject, and we're just going to talk it and enjoy it.
Yeah, can I say? Let me say something about that, because there's people who just don't care. They don't care about this stuff, and that's okay. And it's always like, oh, you don't want to overly, but some people do. Like I enjoy it. I sincerely,
that's
and sometimes I get annoyed because it's like, oh, don't like. There is a place to enjoy this subject matter. Yeah, like to get into it for those people who enjoy it. If you don't,
I know there's
that's
a balance.
Okay.
I know our son, he's into anime, and there's things you got to watch, but at the same time, I didn't come against it.
Yeah,
I've learned from it, and there's some incredible artists involved, and the storyline. Talk about revelation.
Yeah,
and some of these things.
Well, I think
talk about apocalypse, and we went to an anime convention in New York.
Yeah,
and I realized not everybody was there dressed up in the world, but there reaches a certain people.
Yeah.
A certain community. And I'm starting this podcast, and I understand that it is a certain community.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to it.
Yeah.
Because we are a part of it. As Christians, we are a part of a community that believes that there's more to life than just what we're seeing. And that it is being affected by angels, the demonic, by God, and he has showed up incognito 2,000 years ago and was here and lived and breathed. And it's a natural element being affected by the supernatural. So we really are part of that community. You know, our terminology is different. And some aren't. Some believe it different ways, but a lot of it, like I said, our big goal here is just to be awake, to be aware, to live our life to the fullest in the midst of what's happening with our family and our church and our God, just to have a clear view and to talk these things out, because we were saying last night about how one of the things Jesus said about the end, one of the first things he said, and he said it more than once, do not get deceived. Do not get deceived. Be awake. And of course, you stick with the Word of God. That's the truth. And because he said there's going to be folks showing up saying there's somebody. There's somebody. And there's going to be powers behind them. And you're going to think, So this is all included in it. But I was going to read Revelation 1:7. Behold, he is coming in the clouds. There it is, that in the clouds part that we talked about. Literally. In your world. Take this seriously. That's when it jumped off the page at me. Reading it at the library. I took my breath. I just did it one like that. Because I saw what he was saying. Because I had it in my head. I had, like any other people think, in the clouds is kind of fantasy thinking. Mm-hmm. Like a hero movie or, in the clouds.
Like a metaphor.
Yeah. But they're saying, he was saying, no, in your world, in your very atmosphere, not spirit, not unseen, he is going to show up in your world. And then I started thinking about all the genres of the sky. We have been so into the sky. If we take a moment and look up, space, whatever it might be, the UFOs, everybody, if they take time to look up into the sky, we've had this instinct for a long, long time. If there's life out there, it's going to show. When it comes down, it's going to show up and just kind of pause in our sky and say hello.
Well, the ancient aliens or the ancient apocalypse, all of it, that was part of it, because once you get into almost all of them, their lives revolved around the stars.
Yeah. So much. Even the birth of Jesus is connected to it.
This whole thing up there, even though they didn't have a full, and we don't either, a full understanding of the universe, it revolved around that. The stars.
Yeah, the
map,
all of it. The directions.
Where the direction of their buildings were built, all that, their
religions.
You see that a
lot,
all of it's over and over.
Even
the whole world.
Even the pyramids were built in line with certain stars.
Yeah.
The alignment.
Which is super sophisticated, the way they're doing it, too.
And the summer solstice, winter solstice.
Yeah.
Which is
in a way,
related.
that's where we are probably behind, maybe. Where we don't even,
we've stopped,
I don't even think about the stars.
We've stopped looking up.
Yeah. It doesn't hold the same
weight.
We
were getting out camping some, so I get that feel. The other night we were out, and I saw the fireflies all in the forest.
I did that the other day. I just walked outside in the middle of the day, and the moon was just really visible, like a full moon in the daytime sky. And I literally said, what the deuce?
Yeah. No, think about that.
Like, what the deuce? What is this? I mean, this is...
Yeah.
What's this ball?
I told my 20-year-old son, he's like, what?
No, you're right. But that's what humans have been doing forever. No, what are we? We're in some kind of weird thing here, guys. What is this?
Yeah, there's a planet just hanging there.
Especially if you didn't have like light pollution and all that. It's just there.
And
all
it's just a moon,
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, that just happens to be perfect.
Look up.
Or we wouldn't be here. And its size, weight, distance, all that's a whole other deal, though. Behold, he, Jesus, is coming in the clouds. There's going to be a real contact here. And every eye will see him. What was it, the China deal with the balloon? And that became a big deal. A lot of eyes saw that. They were able to pull it up. That was kind of strange, wasn't it? Kind of interesting thing. Something's in the sky again.
Well, if it was...
That we're talking in the clouds. Where the clouds are, something showed up. Are they spying and
I always thought
collecting data?
Every eye would see, I started thinking technology, like on
TV.
Our phones and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started thinking, what if it is literally a
big
thing in the sky? You run outside and see like the sun, like the size of the sun,
like a big huge ship.
Yeah.
Like the sound of it and things.
Yeah,
like close encounters.
Yeah, totally.
I've got scripture for that. I didn't get to it Sunday.
That's totally Sinai.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it Sunday.
Like theophany.
They call it a horn sound.
I was going to look at all the different. This is Thessalonians 4. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel. It's siren sound.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole planet will hear it. And with the trump of God, that's a sound that just hits the planet.
That's a funny thing with
and the dead in Christ shall rise first.
They're always called crazy people till it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what? I thought this morning, I was thinking how I can see, because Peter, remember we were talking last night how they were saying, come on, Peter, you've been saying this deal about Jesus coming, and it's been many years now. And what's up with that? Where's he at? And then he says, days 1,000 years with God. You're seeing time here. God's seeing it how it really is. It's not long. 2,000 years is 2 days.
Yeah.
You don't get the time frame of it with that. But he was what was his answer to that?
He's waiting for people to be able to repent.
Yeah. He was waiting on it.
The harvest. It's funny you mentioned that, coming with the shout, like siren idea. Oh man, the first time
it's all noise. Listen, shout, voice of an archangel. Remember, like many waters.
Yeah.
Daniel heard that angel talk, and he's like, the only thing he sounded like the Niagara Falls.
The first time my wife Jennifer and I watched War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
Oh, it's kind of
and this
like
things like popped up, and they still didn't know what was going on with them, and all of a sudden they go, like it scared the poop out of me. Like,
yeah, and everything's shaking.
Like there's an awe there.
There's two instances. One when
in our sky,
with Jesus, God talks to him at one point, and
They
it
said
says
it
some people
thundered.
thought it was just thunder.
Mhm, yeah.
Sinai's the same thing. God's talking to the people, and they say the words are like, it's like literal thunder. Some kind of just super loud noise.
Yeah, and as we go along, maybe we'll get to all of it, but I looked up all the in the clouds verses. There's a lot.
The Hebrew Bible and the Christian.
Yeah,
Yep.
there is just a lot of talk, and it really helped me to see it differently, meaning in your skies. This happened in your very atmosphere. The two prophets in the book of Revelation says they're going to go up, and in the clouds is going to be this thing.
Like Elijah.
Yeah, Elijah
I think
was it.
That's why they.
But even in the book of Revelation, there are two prophets who get killed, the witnesses, and we'll get to those events eventually with that. But
well, that's why they were expecting Elijah to come back.
Yeah,
because
they actually stood there too, waiting.
He just went away, so he's going to come back, right?
Yeah, that's Acts. They did that with Jesus. The angels had to tell him to leave.
Yeah, what are you still doing?
They had to,
because this guy just flew up in the sky.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, cut us a breaker.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before.
It's in that. Men of Galilee, why do you stand gazing up into heaven? The same Jesus who was taken up from you into heaven, sky, Oranos in Greek.
Yeah, I love that.
It's saying heaven, so it throws people off. It's sky.
Heavens. Yeah.
And too, I know we're talking.
Who will also come in like manner, you saw him go into the sky. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, the sky, as he went up, behold, two men, this is Acts 1, two men stood by them in white apparel, you need, go back, get busy.
Mm-hmm.
Time to go to work. Now
got a mission.
Yeah.
To the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
It's some really, really cool aspects of it.
It is great too. And we talk about too, like the language they had is what they used. And I know we talk a lot about looking up and all that kind of imagery, but I think also it's just a whole other plane of existence. Like we're talking about revealing revelation, just something just could open up.
Yeah.
That could be one of those things where every eye sees too, like just this whole new thing just bursts open.
They use that language too. The door opened.
Well, when Jesus,
heaven,
when the dove came down
it
on
says
him,
it was Stephen.
when in Jesus' baptism, it literally says the Greek is that they were torn.
The sky
was
opened.
torn. The
Yeah,
Greek is
they
it was
used that-
torn open.
Something like an opening.
The Greek, I think, is something like schism.
That's Heiser's big thing too.
There's
Right.
an opening.
I mean, it's incredible. This other
Yeah.
thing just
Yeah.
shows up.
Yeah, they had
That's revealing.
all the apostles. They basically had alien encounters, some kind of freaky stuff.
and
then they had to live out the rest of their lives having known this wild experience that happened.
Go have dinner with the family.
Yeah, go be a regular guy now. They couldn't do it.
Yeah. Paul definitely couldn't.
Yeah.
There's another one that said he got hit from a light from heaven, but it's sky.
He had an encounter.
It's like a
Close encounters.
laser beam of some sort.
With Jesus.
He got hit by. It says he got hit by it. You know, it reminds me of the fella. What's his name? I don't want to get into it. I had the alien encounter a long time ago. In the 70s. I know there's a lot of them. I forget his name. I don't want to get into it.
Fire in the Sky.
Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
That fella.
It looks like that. The beam.
They said he got
tractor
hit.
beam.
Yeah, and he was out of it, and they're freaking out. Oh
Yeah.
my, running around. Let me look that up. What his name was on that. But so we've started. Man, this is. I can keep going. We're gonna have to shut this down as we go. But so we're talking the Book of Revelation. That's going to be a part of it, but it's going to be an ongoing show. Podcast, and a lot will be the scriptures. We're going to be looking at that, but we're also, again, our goal here is to be awake, to be aware, especially, you know, in our culture, as in our community as Christians, because there's a lot of language out there, even right now, about end times, and not just from Christians, in general. I was listening to a fellow, he's a scientist, and he's basically saying, you know, like, yeah, sooner or later, you know, Earth's gone, you know. And you've got also environmentalists talking it too.
That's big.
That's huge. Just a couple more this or that, and Earth's gone, you know.
Yeah, it's real ramping up.
Yeah, if we don't do this or that with energy and figure something else out with the sun and fossil fuels, and we could be gone. I just heard, I forget what the one was, like 20, if we don't do something by 2040, we could be out of a lot of stuff food-wise. Predictions. So it's not just coming from the church. There's a lot of predictions that this could happen or that happen. I just did what was another one had to do with the pandemic, you know. The whole thing was what it's going to be like when it comes next. Like like it was a guaranteed. The article's like, oh, that was just the first, you know. And you got to watch it too, because some of these articles and these end time things, not just from Christians but other scientists, whoever, doctors, whatever. There's a very know-it-all-ish to it, and you got to watch that when you read these things. Like they act like they know. Like I was reading about that, the next pandemic is going to be like this. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Like they made it sound like they know.
Yeah, well, I think as we talk.
Oh, do you really know that
That's
for
been
sure?
With the climate stuff. Predictions from the 60s and 70s.
And that's part,
like,
I think.
You know that how exactly?
Part of our intention with this podcast, to have fun talking about this stuff, is so that these things that can bring fear and anxiety, we can look at through a biblical lens that actually brings hope, and peace, which I'm always grateful for.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah,
crazy.
And some of it just to face it, just look at it, because there was so much scripture about lift up your head, for your redemption draws nigh. My peace I give to you. There's going to be trouble in the world, but I've given you my peace.
And we have a living hope.
And he says, and Jesus, Matthew 24, he just takes it head on. Like, this is going to be happening, and there's going to be persecution and wars and rumors of wars. But man, he who's
take heart.
Yeah, it's strong and committed. I mean, there's just it's not a wimpy falling out, running and hiding.
Sure. There's two things there, though. There's the one that's like his peace with him, but that's also, I think, with the pandemic, what I realize is my stability was more in the world than I would, as a Christian, wanted to
we
admit.
All had a
That's
feel
where
for that,
my
right?
peace and safety was, for real.
Yeah,
You
the meat counter.
Yeah, like,
that was empty.
the grocery store.
Yeah.
I want toilet paper. Yeah, it was like really, you really quickly saw people devolving.
Forgive me, Lord.
Yeah,
And you could
freaking
just
out.
see the fear with if you got a sniffle.
Yeah.
Or you felt something in your
No,
throat.
and that was a very real
like,
thing.
am I going to die?
No, and there's no shame in that because you didn't know. There was that
Yeah.
uncertainty, that unknown, that fear factor of the whole thing. Because I did it. I'll admit it. You know, when it first started, and we were all just keeping our distance. I'm like, something come. Like, I remember I was cooking tacos one night, and I think I inhaled taco powder, to be honest, or something, and just something kind of I couldn't stop coughing.
Yeah.
And that thought, is this it? Is this the thing? We don't know yet.
Right.
Am I?
So that's another reason why we're going to hit this. I think it's just a great subject for a lot of reasons. Revelation now, what's going on, and we talk about it because the Bible does. God's word to us does. Like we were just saying last night, Peter was pretty plain and direct. The end of all things is near.
Period.
Well, tell us what you really think, Peter. What you really think. And he must have got that from the Lord.
Yeah.
He for sure did, because we could read it right there in the gospel discourses.
So, and it sounds so pessimistic. That's what I realized in looking at a lot of this stuff. But the optimistic part is there's a whole family out of it. There's a whole kingdom.
That's the thing
out
right
of
there.
it.
The
There's,
whole kingdom
there's a whole,
now and
there
not
really
yet
is
dynamic.
something coming out of it that's incredible. Like even Peter goes on to say, don't you realize you're a royal priesthood, a holy nation, kings and priests
And 4 chapters after
unto God.
Matthew 24, he says, all authority has been given to me.
that's coming out of this.
Has been given to me. King, ruling and reigning right now.
This Genesis project that we all are part. His name was Travis Walton, by the way. Travis Walton.
He got zapped?
The fellow that got zapped, and
Yeah.
they made a movie out of it.
Was he the hunter?
Was he one of the Waltons?
No, they were loggers. They were doing
Logger, yeah.
Yeah, they were out.
The
whole
the
group was
movie,
out
right?
there. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that guy's interesting because he's not,
still around.
He doesn't
gets
seem
paid.
like a dude who would do that. Make
And
up
he was
a
gone for
crazy
5
story.
days, and he ended up in the ship and the whole thing that happened to him
Yeah.
that he went through. He's considered one of the top believable
Yeah.
type things
Right.
with him, and that. But we said that because Paul had
Yeah. He got zapped.
he totally had the same thing, got zapped,
And he would go around
and they
telling
said it came from the sky. It came down, nailed him. It was so bright he ended up couldn't see.
Yeah.
He was blinded by it. It was so powerful, and he heard a voice.
What's that?
Really
what's
interesting.
that song?
Why are you persecuting me?
Blinded by the light.
Blinded
are
by the
you?
light.
But it
Lord?
almost had to. And you see that actually in the Muslim world and things where people have dreams or something. It's almost like short of a supernatural intervention, certain folks they're not going to switch their worldview. I think Paul was one of those people.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. So we are, gang, thank you for joining us on our first episode. And as you can tell, we can just keep it rolling and talking. Revelation 1, verse 1. Again, we're looking at what's going on. Angels, aliens, UFOs, demons, paranormal, so much talk. Well, we're going to look at it. And we believe that the Bible has some cool answers, direct things to look at, to ponder, and that will help us to live in these times. Not be overwhelmed, but to live, not only live, we've been saying not just survive, but to thrive, to be a light in this time. Revelation 1:1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants, things which must shortly, guaranteed, to take place. And he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John, who bore witness to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ Messiah, to all things that he saw. Blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. Thank you for joining us. Episode 2 coming soon. Man, I'm excited about this. Revelation Now.
All right.